Chapter 111 Seeds of War. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Rudra stormed angrily from his audience spot towards Thor's chambers once the fight ended. Not bothering to knock or ask permission, Rudra kicked apart the door to his VIP box and stood in front of Thor, weapon in hand. "What's the matter here?" Thor asked, as he retrieved Mjolnir and pointed it towards Rudra. Thor was entirely naked and with a big erection when Rudra entered the room, apparently ruining his victory celebrations. "The master only has 5 minutes before the next fight starts, please make sure to leave within the 2 minutes. Lord Shikuni, master needs 3 to finish," Gunnar said, as Thor smashed his hammer onto Gunnar's head to silence the dwarf. "The dwarf lies, my prowess in bed is legendary," Thor said, blushing deep red as his penis went limp. "Why did you cheat? Lord of Thunder, does child love blind you so much that you resort to blatant cheating in such low-level university tournaments?" Rudra asked in a stern voice. "Slander. The son of Odin never cheats, I swear by my father's grave that I have no idea what you are talking about," Thor replied. "My lord." "Ha, please don't test my patience, although I respect you. Do you really want me to believe that a forbidden move like Black Thunder that did not show up in the kid stat panel before the fight was suddenly learnt by him mid-match? That clouds appeared on this asteroid with no natural lakes and reservoirs and no clouds having been formed since the dawn of time, and started to crackle with thunder just today? Just in this match?" Rudra questioned Thor a little too aggressively. That good point, Thor fell into contemplation. Suck it a little harder," Thor said to the woman sucking his limp penis as he clearly disregarded Rudra's valid questioning. Losing his temper, Rudra severed the woman's neck. "You have gone too far," Thor rumbled, as electricity boomed from his body and the roof was blown off the VIP box, dense thunder clouds circling the top. "I respected your woman, I made Gunnar apologize, but you show my woman no respect, that's unacceptable. Know your place, brat," Thor said, his eyes now crackling with thunder as his aura started to leak. "Oh, and who will put me in my place, you? The god who was captured by the giants and imprisoned for 200 years. The god who slept with his own brother in a woman's form and ended up poisoned and tied to the bed for 3 days. Or the glorious god who was powerless to save his own father when Judgment Day came for him. I know my place very well, Odinson, but perhaps you don't know me. I am Shikuni the undefeated, the dragon slayer, the legendary demon slayer, the god of all humans. I did what no mortal before me was ever able to do and cleared Omega as a god. I slayed the devil himself, when I was weaker to him by a whole tier. You talk about showing me my place, I say challenge me to the arena of the gods and I'll show you exactly how strong I am." Rudra spat venomously at Thor and the other party was clearly shaken off. "Such confidence. Is it on your own strength or the one night name behind you?" Thor asked, his voice equally cold. Rudra grinned. Thor was not as big of an idiot as he seemed to be, albeit muscle-headed. The god of thunder knew that if he attacked Rudra here it would be akin to declaring war on the One Knights, and it was not a fight that the Thunder Kingdom was prepared to take. Lowering his sword, Rudra calmed down as he said, "If you have not cheated here then it's fine, I'm sorry to kill your woman, I'll compensate you with whatever reasonable demand you have." Thor was silent for a while. He was not willing to let this behavior of Rudra go unpunished, but the status of the other party was not something that could be offended easily. "I don't need compensation from you, but know that you have offended Thor Odinson today, and we gods hold grudges for a long time," Thor said as he put away his Mjolnir. Rudra walked out of the cabin, thinking his objective was completed. However, right before he left Thor said, "H2047. That's your crib, right? Beware of the thunderclouds," Thor said coldly. Rudra turned back and looked Thor dead in the eye as he said, "That one comment will cost you everything." Flashback. At the One Night Mansion, Augustus One Night sighed as he said, "As you must know, there are 10 great kingdoms in the Light faction. We call them great kingdoms because they are either headed by or have a tier 8 backer within their ranks. Just in case you don't know universal politics Shikini boy, here is a recap for you. The 10 great nations are 1. The Vampire Kingdom headed by King Regus Aurelius II. The Thunder Kingdom headed by Thor Odinson III. The Barbarian Kingdom headed by the Savage King IV. The Human Empire of Hazelgrove headed by Emperor Cervantes V. The One Night Kingdom with their patriarch, me, Augustus One Night VI. The Elf Kingdom led by King Leon Silverknight VII. The Dwarf Kingdom of Dworgen, led by the Forger King VIII. The Beast Kingdom, led by Beast King Omar. 9. The Mercenary Kingdom led by the Mercenary King, Avens the Unstoppable 10. The Kingdom of Dreams led by Night King. Above the 10 great kingdoms are the 4 monarchies that have multiple Tier 8 existences within their ranks. 1. The Angel Monarchy led by Archangel Michael II. The Death Monarchy led by Death God Hades. 3. The Dragon Monarchy led by Golden Dragon, King Drakun. 4. The Monarchy of Life, led by Goddess Benyeger. As such, throughout history alliances between the great clans and monarchies have been made and countless wars have been fought. While I don't mind fighting internal battles, I'm afraid the political scene of the Light faction is changing rapidly. Our intelligence suggests that the Mercenary Kingdom, the Thunder Kingdom and the Kingdom of Dreams have been infiltrated from bottom to very high levels of the society by Dark faction and Lucifer loyalists. From introduction of forbidden spells and equipment into armies of these kingdoms to their territories growing increasingly lawless, there is utter chaos. Dark faction players are building bases in those regions and using it as a cover to launch terrorist operations and spy training camps, as they capture and force young Light faction kids with great cover stories to become spies for their cause. Several assassination ploys have been made at the lives of high-level officials loyal to the king and kingdom, and while upon our warnings, the Mercenary King and the Night King have purged a lot of their court members, Thor remains stubborn and trusting of his officials. Despite our repeated warnings, the Thunder Kingdom continues to bloom as a budding base for Dark faction bastards. Usually, I would let the matter be, but the Thunder Kingdom are our immediate neighbors and we have been the biggest recipients of terrorist attacks in the last 200 years. Millions of civilians have died, and the idiot Thor has refused to listen to reason throughout this time period. 5 years ago, I told your sister Patricia to start preparing for war. Back then, we had no idea that you would join our ranks this soon, and thought it would be at least 30 years before we actually started engaging in a full-blown conflict. However, a major event 6 months ago has changed this course of action, the death of our northern frontier General Mark, who was ambushed by 7 Tier 6 gods at once in our northernmost solar system planet of GX24. Mark was a Tier 6 mage and one of the pillars of our kingdom, and his loss was felt heavily. His death made me realize that we can no longer sit tight and wait for Thor to take our warning seriously and that the time for diplomacy was over. According to our intelligence report, Tier 6 gods have started to freely operate under Thor's nose, and the musclehead does not even realize that he does not control parts of his own territory anymore. As things are, we see no other option but to provoke the Thunder Kingdom into a full-blown war, to protect the integrity of the One Night territory. If I could, I would have obliterated the Thunder Kingdom myself and would have done so long ago, but the Treaty of Benyeger prevents me from directly engaging in combat. As per the treaty signed between all kings and monarchs, without a probable reason or a blood feud, none of the Tier 8 kings can personally take action in small border disputes, but fortunately this rule does not apply to you kids. You can go into battle knowing that Thor cannot fight you until you have captured major portions of his territory, but know full well that when that day comes, he will challenge you to a fight to the death in the arena of the gods. I cannot let Patricia take this risk. She is the ruling queen of this territory, and without her our kingdom will literally crumple. Although this sounds selfish of me, this responsibility then falls on your shoulders, my boy. The question is, do you Shikini One Night have the guts to take on this mission, knowing full well that in the end your life will most likely be forfeit? Augustus asked, as Rudra suddenly had a lot to digest and think about. /////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////// check author notes for full monthly report //////. Chapter 112 Asiva's Rage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sebastian tried to move his muscles, but the sharp pain that he felt throughout his body made it clear to him that his body had been overexerted by the use of Black Thunder and he could no longer use more than 30% of his strength. Sebastian studied Asiva closely. Unlike her usual friendly demeanor, she looked unusually ferocious at the moment. Doesn't look like she will go easy on me at all. Sebastian thought as he asked the healer how much time was left, only to be told the bad news that it was only 30 seconds. Sebastian looked at his pitifully low HP bar and sore arms and knew that it was game over unless he tried something underhanded. The time was eventually up and the healers rushed out of the fighting arena as the barrier wall between Asiva and Sebastian slowly started to dissipate. Both the referees maintained an arm over the fighters' shoulders to make sure that they didn't prepare a spell before the barrier dissipated completely. Only when the barrier was lifted completely, did the referees let go as Asiva's referee ran towards the exit. Sebastian walked calmly towards Asiva with his hand extended as he pretended like he wanted to shake hands with her before the fight started. In reality, Sebastian wanted to electrocute Asiva as soon as they shook hands, but for now he pretended for it to be a friendly gesture as he wore a smile on his face. Swoosh swoosh, two daggers stopped Sebastian in his tracks as he frowned to see Asiva being so aggressive right off the bat. I thought we four agreed to shake hands before the start of every fight. Sebastian said as innocently as possible, trying to guilt Asiva into accepting the handshake. Unfortunately for him, however, Asiva was too smart to fall for such petty tricks. Change of plans, we fight right off the bat now, prepare or perish. She said coldly, not giving Sebastian any face. The crowd booed this behavior of Asiva, however, she did not care. She was not going to show sportsmanship where it was unnecessary as she assessed this fight as it was. Which was a battle to death. In her mind, there was no need for pleasantries in such a type of battle. Sebastian sighed, his tricks were supposedly not going to work on Asiva, hence the only option he had now was to go all out. Thunder slash, pulling his sword out of his scabbard, Sebastian tried to pull a fast one on Asiva as he called upon the Thunder slash right off the bat, but Asiva was already prepared for this as she dodged the powerful slash by a series of agile backflips. Ha! Asiva said, revealing her vampiric fangs to Sebastian as she got proof that her instincts had been true from the very start, that Sebastian was not honest in trying to shake her hand. Showing no mercy, Asiva threw dagger after dagger towards Sebastian, who was forced to knock them off using his sword. Illusionary daggers. Asiva threw 3 daggers, but they expanded into 9 as Sebastian was left wondering which ones were real and which were fake. Had he been on full strength he could have dodged the attack, however, in his current state his muscles did not have the robustness needed. 450.450.550, system notification. You have been poisoned, you will lose 15 HP every passing second now. It took a while, and the amount of blood that Max took out made even someone like Severus feel slightly dizzy. However, since Severus did feel a little guilty about costing him the match, hence he let Max have his fill in silence as a form of apology. So, I lost Max said, there being a slight sadness in his voice. Yeah, you did. Severus said, choking on his own words as he could not explain how it was not to his own fault. Well, congrats to Sebastian, I guess, he should take on Asiva soon then. Max said, his head turning towards the TV as he pulled out a zipper bag of blood from his inventory. About your match, Max. I know how I lost Severus, I'm not happy about it, but there is nothing I can do about it, so I will not needlessly throw a tantrum. I understand your reasons, but that doesn't make it any easier on me. So the least you can do now, is let me be. Max said coldly as Severus realized that Max already knew about what happened. Walking out of the room sadly, Severus truly felt melancholy of being a father figure and a guardian to a teenager. I'm never letting go of control again, Grandpa Drax. I do trust you, and do so blindly, but I refuse to become a beast. If you ever ask me to do it again, I will no longer consider you as my grandpa. Max said as he put Drax on alert. Max knew Drax only wished the best for him, but on this particular topic he did not agree with Drax's choices. Chapter 113 Max doesn't get the hint. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Max watched the match of Asiva versus Sebastian in silence. His eyes were slightly moist and his ego felt a little bruised. I wonder what Big Brother will think of me. Max wondered as he balled his fists. For Max, the most important thing in the tournament was to showcase to his brother how strong he had become. He just wanted to make him proud. Max was happy for Sebastian, his friend truly deserved to win, but Max could not resolve the knot in his heart that maybe if he did not give up control he could have pulled it off. As Max saw Asiva win easily over Sebastian, his mood improved considerably as his heart warmed up to see her shine like this on the grand stage. While others did not know what Asiva went through on a day-to-day basis, Max knew very well that her struggles to improve were no less compared to his. Asiva had worked extremely hard to improve her dagger-throwing proficiency from intermediate to familiar, and it showed when she made accurate and deadly throws in the match. She was an assassin and a creature of night through and through, so 1-versus-1 battles were not even her strong suit, but despite all disadvantages she stood as one of the top 4 contestants of the tournament. Soon, the final battle started as Asiva faced Zeref, the mage, in an epic battle to seal the final spot. Max watched in awe as he saw Asiva weave through attacks accurately, all the while maintaining pressure on the enemy by throwing daggers at critical organs like eyes and neck. The biggest advantage of Asiva going into the battle was her speed, as no matter how hard Zeref tried he could just not catch her with an attack, while Asiva managed to get a few shots on him. Finally the kicker came when the poison effect of her daggers was triggered and Zeref began losing 15 points in HP every passing second. From there on, it was only a game of dodging and playing defense for Asiva, as her opponent had no means to cure his condition, as he eventually fell short and died. Max stood up to clap as Asiva was crowned the winner of the match and the first finalist of the tournament. Cheers from the crowd adored her. Many selectors and high-level officials took notice of her performance and tried to probe into her background. As she walked towards the dressing rooms, the camera caught a shot of her beautiful amber-colored eyes, and for a moment even Max became breathless to see her beauty. "Student, you need to vacate the locker room now." A staff member came to inform Max, as Max nodded towards him and prepared to head out. But before he could head out of the room, he found a panting Asiva blocking his way on the door as she looked intensely towards Max. "Congratulations," Max said with a happy voice as he looked amiably towards Asiva. She tried to give Max the signal as she seductively bit her lip and stared into his eyes, just like she thought women did when they wanted a male to give them attention, but unfortunately Max was a musclehead who failed to pick up on her hints. She was slightly sad when Max took 2 steps away from her as if she was contagious when she bit her lips, but looking into his unfocused eyes she understood that the bozo did not even realize what he was doing. Fuck it, I'll just focus on the tournament finals for now," Asiva said as she tried to suppress her thumping heart. Chapter 114 Exposed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Max dejectedly walked towards the audience stands as he feared his brother's reaction. However, his assumptions never culminated as he was greeted with a widely grinning Rudra and Naomi. "Woo, the champ is here," Naomi said with the brightest smile as Max's face flushed a little. "I lost," Max said, not accepting her compliment. "So what? You're my champion for sure," Naomi said, trying her best to cheer him up. Max looked into Rudra's eyes as he found them to be as loving as ever. Much to his pleasure, Max saw no disappointment in Rudra's eyes as he looked into them, only mirth and love. "It was a good fight, you have improved a lot as a fighter," Rudra said, expressing his genuine satisfaction over Max's growth. "I could do better," Max said, shaking the compliment off. Rudra smiled as he wrapped his hands around Max's shoulders and said, "Where did you think you make a mistake? Tell me your analysis." Max contemplated for a while as he said, "I did not play to my strengths. He was stronger and faster than me, but I insisted on combating him at close range." Rudra smiled. he was glad that Max at least had some form of self-realization of his mistakes. You know, Max, before a battle starts on the field, it starts inside one's mind. What moves does my opponent have? Will he pull out a new move I have never seen? Will he pretend to be a sheep to be a tiger? These are the questions that you have to think about, and you have to make sure that your opponent thinks too. If your opponent knows your entire move set, then they become at ease when planning the next battle. They become sharper, they plan better, and you become slightly disadvantaged. The first mistake you made was you did not make your opponent second-guess himself when he walked onto the pitch. Max was enlightened by Rudra's words. He had never thought about a fight in this fashion. The second task is to get under your opponent's skin. If you have to play the jester, play the jester. If you have to play the role of a cocky young master, then become a cocky young master, and if you have to become an aloof and cold superstar, then become an aloof and cold superstar, but make sure you get under your opponent's skin before the fight starts. If your opponent is angry, scared or emotional, his clarity of making good decisions decreases. You did this well in round of 64, but somehow forgot to do the same when facing Sebastian. Rudra advised as Max listened with his head bowed down. Ow! Naomi said, hurting her elbow hitting Rudra's rock-like body. Rudra looked at Max facing towards the floor and understood Naomi's meaning as he decided to fuck the teachings as he said, I heard your university has good canteen, treat me Max, let's eat some alien food. Max knew exactly what had happened, but he said nothing, smiling as he led his family to the cafeteria. Meanwhile Sebastian hoped to have a good reception with Thor, however his dreams were thoroughly crushed when he visited his dad. That Black Thunder. Where did you learn that move, boy? Thor asked, his voice containing a slight edge. Asmodeus panicked. He did not expect that the first thing that Thor would say would be about his choice of attack. Although Black Thunder is not a demonic move, I personally banned it from being used in the Light faction. Not even the Thunder Kingdom archives have that attack. Then how did you learn it? Thor asked again, his voice stern this time. Asmodeus' breathing became irregular, he felt the full pressure of a Tier 8 god weighing on him. Gunnar, secure the exit, Thor commanded as he stood up from the seat he was sitting on as he walked toward Sebastian standing only a feet away. What happened, demon? Cat got your tongue? Thor asked threateningly as Asmodeus's eyes widened in shock. Never in his wildest dreams did he think that he would be discovered like this here today. I would have never seen through you, if not for that pesky human god pointing out the irregularities in your fight against the vampire kid. I did not want to inspect my own flesh and blood, but I did only to find that Black Thunder is not in your skill set. If it's not a move you have learnt via a skill.scroll or a system reward, then it must mean it came out of your memory. Since there is no memory of the move across Light faction because I personally outlawed it, the only possibility is that a demon has possessed my son's body. Asmodeus panicked as he tried to think of an escape plan, but came out empty. Ha! If you were innocent you would have been flabbergasted by now. Curse Odin, my own son was captured by a bloody demon. Bind him, Gunnar, we will exorcise him back at Thunder Nation. Thor said, as he chopped Asmodeus's neck, knocking him out unconscious. Damn it, I hate that smart-ass human. Thor cursed, as although he had dismissed Rudra's words when he barged into his room with allegations, he had been constantly thinking about his words for the past few hours and found out that sadly something did not add up about his son using a forbidden move. He was emotionally driven, but Thor Odinson was no fool, he figured out the truth soon enough. Chapter 115 Finals. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, Rudra and Naomi said their goodbye to Max and returned to Earth, as Max joined Anna in the stands to watch today's finals. Where's Sebastian? Sebastian. Max and Anna asked each other at the same time, as the two were clueless as to where their friend had gone. With Thor, he has taken a trip to the Thunder Nation. A voice said from behind as both Max and Anna turned to find Severus sitting behind them. Popcorn. Severus offered with a smile, what the hell, when did you arrive? Anna asked, still shocked as to how he appeared out of nowhere, while Max only sighed deeply. Severus, you have to stop appearing out of nowhere, man, it's creepy. Max said for the millionth time, but he knew that his words had zero effect on the man. Ha ha ha, Severus laughed like a psycho, as Max and Anna gave up and turned back to face the arena. The first contestant to walk out was her opponent, the Golden Girl, the angel race warrior. Furial, lustful boys howled like a hound when she stepped onto the stage, as the temperature in the arena definitely felt like it went up by a notch. Furial was one of those warriors that, although being extremely skilled, loved to show off a lot, as everything about her, from her epic rated yet revealing equipment to her fighting style, screamed glamour. What's the point of wearing an armor when you don't even cover your abdomen and let your navel show? Isn't it just a substitute push-up bra then to support your boobs? Anna said, disgusted by how revealingly Furial dressed. Max smiled. He did not mind Furial displaying her slender legs and slim waist at all. He appreciated all of God's beautiful creations as they were meant to be appreciated. Max hummed with satisfaction as Furial opened her wings and took it to the skies, as he, being seated on the lower end of the seating arena, saw a nice view of her bottom. It was at this moment that Max felt someone's sharp glare falling on him, as he looked on the stage to find Asiva staring straight at him. Shit, Max thought as he instantly wiped the stupid grin off his face and looked Asiva in the eye. All the best. Anna shouted from beside him, but before Max could utter a word, Asiva turned away. Young love, so touching. Severus commented from behind as he munched on some popcorn and pretended to wipe off fake tears, as both Anna and Max gave him a weird look. Meanwhile Asiva, stupid bitch, I'll kill you, Asiva cursed in her mind the moment she found Max starting at the woman. Before the fight she had nothing personal against the woman, but now this fight just became a hell lot personal for her. Apart from being an exhibitionist, Furial was one of the most broken fighters in the academy and undoubtedly the strongest. Her racial stats and ability to fly made her a fearsome opponent. However, the real kicker was her near-inexhaustible mana reserves. She was a S-rated class called Flying Warlock Fighter, and her class-specific attacks packed a big punch against individual fighters. She was a 12.1 favorite to win this fight, and almost the entire crowd was convinced that this fight was going to be a squash. Only a handful of people believed that Asiva would win, and amongst them was one Severus St. Maximus. So, kids, what do you think? How long will the fight last? Severus asked curiously. It will be a long fight, although Asiva is at a disadvantage, she will give a tough fight. Anna speculated, I think the advantage will be established early into the fight, the person who controls the tempo will win the fight eventually. Max said, expressing his views, I say it will end in just 2 moves, Severus said with confidence, just 2. Give your daughter more credit, Severus. Anna was about to rage off but was cut off by Max, who said, Anna, I think he means a 2 moves win for Asiva. What? Anna said, sounding suspicious. However, Severus only smiled in response. I don't know why, but yesterday over dinner brother also said the same thing. Max said, now frowning as he watched the fight closely, as if he would miss something big if he accidentally blinked. The referee had explained the rules, and both the fighters were now walking back towards the white spots now. As the moment they reached there and faced each other, the start of the fight was announced, much to the pleasure of the thunderous audience. Meanwhile Asmodeus woke up in chains and surrounded by priests, as he seemed to be inside some carriage. Filthy demon, what master do you serve? A priest asked him, hatred visible in his eyes. Go fuck yourself, Asmodeus replied as he tried the sturdiness of his bounds only to find them way beyond the capabilities of the body he was currently in. Mashrini Hesvola, Etta, Masha Rehubalala, a priest chanted in the old demonic language and threw holy water over Sebastian's body. Bleh, cough. Asmodeus coughed out some holy water that had entered forcefully through the nose, the water leaving a bad taste in his mouth. Old bald fat priest, your demonic is worse than a 4-year-old, so please stop murdering our language. I'm not the kind of demon that you can exorcise in the name of Odin. Asmodeus said with a blatant disregard for the priest's pride which seemed to be hurt by his words. Impudent demon, let's see if you can continue this nonchalance in front of the grand priest. The fat priest said as he poured the bottle of holy water over Asmodeus's head, much to the irritation of the ancient demon. This time Asmodeus had been caught badly, although the fat priest was useless. He needed to try and escape before the Thunder Nation brought someone over that was actually capable of removing him forcefully from Sebastian's body. Chapter 116 Victory. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Oval Arena, Fight. The referee gave the command and instantly Asiva charged at full pace towards the angel. Scattered Light Blast. Firiel joined her hands to form a triangle using her palms as she used a scattered light blast attack to dish out 5 beams of light aimed towards the charging Asiva. Swoosh. Asiva did an incredible mid-air horizontal roll to slide between 2 scattered light shots as she landed on her feet and used an attack of her own. Exploding Daggers. Asiva threw 5 daggers towards Firiel, who seemed to be prepared for the attack as she flapped her wings hard and began moving backwards along the same line, but due to her moving back the trajectory of the daggers was no longer correctly aiming at her body. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The daggers went past her body, as Firiel smiled cheekily thinking she had dodged the attack. Unfortunately for her though, she missed the minute strings hanging out of Asiva's fingertips. Asiva pulled the strings as the daggers dramatically changed the course and were pulled back towards where Firiel stood. Boom! Asiva said as the daggers exploded all around Firiel. BO.4400 AG. Firiel screamed in pain as flames and smoke erupted all around her. This was a move she had never seen Asiva use before and was hence caught completely off guard by its usage. Her HP bar was reduced in half by a single powerful attack, and by the time the smoke cleared in front of her eyes, it had already become too late to dodge the incoming attack by Asiva. Death Pierce, Asiva said as she rammed her dagger straight through Firiel's neck as she scored a critical hit. .7500 critical hit. In a shocking turn of events and a final battle that lasted a grand total of 55 seconds, Asiva won the match in convincing fashion. Firiel dropped dead much to the horror of her fans, as Asiva stood tall as the winner of the tournament with her hand raised high. The principal and staff walked onto the pitch with flowers and gifts as the principal personally announced the final victor. The winner of this match, and of this year's tournament, to find the strongest warrior amongst the ranks of the university for nourishment of young talents. Asiva Nightblade Paradis. Asiva the Bloodless. Asiva the Merciless, let's go. You are the queen. I knew from day one that you are a hard motto. Thank you for making me a bunch of money. Asiva, if you need a bed-warming husband I'm available for marriage. The crowd cheered for her, as Asiva smugly accepted the grand reward for winning the rare stat booster, as she consumed it without a second thought. Many gulped enviously when they saw Asiva consume such a rare and valuable treasure, but now that she ate it there was nothing that they could do about it anyways. Looking towards the crowd, Asiva tried to find her friends, as she saw them happy and clapping for her in victory. She pouted a bit when she saw Anna leaning over Max's shoulders to try and get a better view of her, but then quickly waved it off. Walking proudly out of the Oval Arena, she was excited to hear Max's thoughts about her win tonight back at the dorm. Meanwhile Asmodeus was dragged into a large church against his will, as he was forced to kneel there before the statue of goddess Benyeger. If there was one god that Asmodeus hated to his core, it was Benyeger. He did not even hate the god who killed him in his past life as much as he hated her, as he had nothing but pure disgust for Benyeger. Benyeger was a goddess who had limitless power under her belt. While she pretended to be the goddess of light, life and prosperity, Asmodeus knew that Benyeger was capable of taking life away at will as much as she was capable of giving it. She was one of the few gods capable of killing another god at will without having to move a finger, yet she insisted on creating a dream-like utopian world without war or struggles instead of using her gifts properly. If there was one thing Asmodeus hated, it was the idea of a chocolatey world where there was no crime, no ambition and no strife. A world where everyone loved each other and lived happily. Just the thought itself of such a world made him feel like he needed to instantly vomit. It was for this very reason that he was extremely unhappy at being made to kneel before Benyeger. As if given an option he would choose to die before kneeling to a goddess like her. So this is the possessed? A radiant young man asked the fat bald priest, who nodded in reverence. Indeed, the fat priest said, let's see. The man said as he placed his hand over Asmodeus's chin and looked straight into his eyes. It was at this moment that Asmodeus felt like his soul itself was on fire, as he felt like some outer power was judging his soul through vengeful eyes. A greater demon has rendered the young master Sebastian in a vegetative state. I'm afraid this case is much more serious than we thought. The young man concluded as Asmodeus was left panting and in a disarray when the young man eventually averted his gaze. Who are you? Why can you use soul magic? Asmodeus asked fearfully. Soulmancers were a class that was presumed to be wiped out years ago. Not something you are worthy of knowing, demon, the young man replied as he snapped his fingers and asked the guards to bind Asmodeus up in the dungeon below. Asmodeus had been on alert for the last few hours, waiting for the smallest opportunity to escape, but unfortunately there was none up till now. As time passed, he grew more and more desperate to escape. With the enemy having a soulmancer within their ranks, he needed to escape at the first opportunity possible, as he would be separate from Sebastian's body otherwise. Chapter 117, Leaving Earth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. So how did the fruit taste? Max asked, laying on his bed in the dorm area. Sour. Asiva replied from the other room. Any news on when we will go to the Dragon's Paradise? Max asked. Should be 3 weeks till it opens. Asiva replied curtly. It had been a while since the two had been talking aimlessly in the dorm. It was a slightly warm and awkward atmosphere as they tried to move the conversation forward but did not know what to say. Sebastian will be there too, no? Max asked curiously. How would I know? Asiva replied with slight irritation. Max was silent after that, as his eyelids started to droop. I saw you staring at Furiel today, Asiva said, sounding annoyed. Yeah, Max replied, half asleep. Is she more beautiful than me? Asiva asked nervously. This question was very important to her. No, Max replied honestly. Why? Asiva asked, now peeking through the metal window between their rooms. Because my Siv has the most beautiful eyes. Max said as he brushed his fingers on her face lazily. I'm asleep now, good night, he said sleepily as he covered himself in the blanket, not realizing the torrent of emotions his few words just caused in Asiva's heart. My Siv, huh? Asiva wondered as she blushed deeply. If it were anyone else who said this, she would have broken his fingers. However, since it was Max, it felt like music to her ears. Looking at him sleeping calmly, Asiva pouted as she muttered idiot before closing the window and going to sleep herself. Meanwhile back on Earth, Rudra sat on his throne-like chair as the council of Earth's strongest warriors, politicians and influential merchants stood before him. It could be said that 99% of powerful people who controlled the lives of billions were all present in the room in front of Rudra today, as the protector of Earth had called for a high-level emergency meeting. I'm sure many of you are wondering as to why I have gathered you here today. Well, the answer is not a pleasant one, unfortunately. Rudra said as he stood up, began pacing around the room. Everyone was nervous because Rudra was nervous. While every one of them was powerful in their own right, in this room they would be dead by Rudra's aura alone should he decide to suppress them. I do believe that our time on this planet might be coming to an end. Rudra said without mincing his words as a gloomy atmosphere spread across the room. What do you mean, Lord Protector? Asked Christian Grey, the representative of the Grey International Group here in this meeting today. The reason why I made you all sign a binding contract here today as to not divulge the details of this meeting to anyone is because it will cause mayhem across Earth if this news is to be leaked. Rudra said as he reminded everyone that the words he was to speak from now on were never to be discussed with an outsider. Earth is weak. We have increased our strength, and over the past few months the number of tier 4 warriors amongst our ranks have increased to 30, which is very good. But it's nothing compared to the wide universe. Just a few days ago I visited the one-night home planet, Radiance, and found nearly 20 million tier 4 warriors residing on that planet. 20 fucking million tier 4 warriors. Rudra said, as his voice reverberated throughout the hall. Some people felt sweat dripping down their foreheads when they heard the number, and some felt their blood run cold. There are 10 such great families in the universe, and above them are the monarchies. We are small fish amongst small fish, and although this might sound narcissistic coming from my own mouth, but the reality is that without me holding down the fort, Earth will be eaten raw by space pirates, much less some big organization. Rudra said as he broke down the ground reality for everyone present in the room. Planets like Earth don't have a good life, they are either run dry for resources or turned into slave worker planets by oppressors. Till I'm alive, Earth will never face a problem, but due to some recent developments, I may have to head out for a war soon. The moment I leave Earth, however, I doubt our planet is able to repel one single invasion, much less endless waves of them. Rudra said, as everyone in the room felt a trickle of yellow liquid going down their pants. Fret not, we have been promised asylum and fertile lands on Radiance. We would be given a continent to live on and govern as per our own rules and beliefs. The land area would roughly be 1.5 times of Earth's total land area, with varying terrain. The gravity will be about 1.6 times that of Earth, but the air quality is much cleaner and the food is richer in nutrients. I've decided that we will slowly start shifting the planet's population to Radiance, roughly 3.4 months from now. Cities are already under construction there, and I will also send some of our blacksmiths there to overlook designs and cultural aspects. Until then, stop all new infrastructure projects on Earth and start preparing for war. Those who play Sigma, promote policies that make them more self-sufficient as they start universal money, otherwise start salvaging whatever we need to take from this planet to Radiance. Whatever books, monuments, artifacts we should take, start winding everything up slowly. Roughly 100 days from now, we will start emptying Earth. Rudra had given his verdict as everyone bowed in respect of his decision. Everyone realized that whatever Rudra was trying to achieve and decide was not easy. However, under the circumstances it was a much better choice to move to a safer planet like Radiance than stay on Earth. While the politicians were a little sad, the merchants were happy as they saw the potential in living on a planet with such a big population to utilize as a customer base. However, the most rattled class were undoubtedly the warriors, who were going to go from being Earth's strongest, to 1 in 20 million tier 4 warriors of Radiance. Chapter 118 Tough Choices. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A few days passed by quickly and Max was back to his routine of stat maximization. Being the only one who was below Tier 2 amongst all his friends, Max was hell-bent on promoting himself to Tier 2 before the expedition to Dragon's Paradise. If there was one big improvement for Max since the tournament, it was that he had stopped second-guessing himself on a lot of decisions. Max's confidence saw a huge boost once the tournament ended, and a big reason for it was the meetings he had with various recruiting officers of various factions. The minimum offer that Max received was a yearly pay of 4.5 million gold to work as a police captain, while the best offer that he received was of 12 million gold coins a year, alongside many other added benefits and resources allocated towards his growth. Naturally, Max did not accept any of these offers. However, he realized that with just about 10 months worth of solid consistent efforts he had changed his fate of being an office clerk working for 25,000 gold coins a year to becoming a man worth 12 million gold coins a year. Even though Max was not Tier 2, the confidence he gained from going toe-to-toe with Tier 2 warriors and defeating them gave him the confidence in his path, as he decided to persevere on it without thinking about short-term benefits. Meanwhile, Sebastian, at least give me some water, you fuckers. It's been 5 days since you tied me up, Asmodeus shouted. His body was in a lot of pain at the moment, as although being a demigod he had a better constitution than mortals and could last 2.3 days without water. It was already day 5 and the dehydration was finally kicking in. His lips had become dry, his muscles spasmed due to lack of water as his consciousness became blurry. To make things worse, the church people forcefully fed him the driest of oats and cereals, which were difficult to swallow as it is, but impossible to swallow without saliva present in one's mouth. The demonic torture of just whipping an enemy is more humane than what these light faction fuckers do. Asmodeus thought as he cursed the Soulmancer young boy for the millionth time in the day. "I'll kill you," he murmured as he saw the young boy enter his prison cell. "You can surely try," the young priest replied cockily, as he was confident in his own abilities to fight demons. Like every day, even today the young priest looked into Asmodeus's eyes and into his soul as he tried to weaken Asmodeus's grip over Sebastian's body, chipping away at his soul power bit by bit. No. No. Ack. Asmodeus shuddered throughout the session as he felt bits of his priceless and ageless memories, his knowledge, his identity being slowly washed away by the power of the Soulmancer. The pain of the soul was 1,000 times more painful than the pain of the body, and for Asmodeus the loss of his precious knowledge was even more unbearable than the pain of the soul. Eventually, their session ended as the Soulmancer exhausted all his powers and stood up shakily. "I'll kill you, you bastard, I'll kill you for sure," Asmodeus roared maniacally, but the guard slapped his face hard when he tried to bite the young priest, as a handprint became visibly imprinted on Sebastian's face. "How's the boy's condition?" Gunnar asked, as he was supposed to report on it to Thor today, but looking at the sighing expression of the priest, he understood that it was not good news. The grip of the demon on the young master's body has weakened considerably. However, the demon has somehow rendered the young master powerless in his own body, as despite the demon being weakened the young master's soul makes no moves to reclaim his body. "I'm afraid even if I forcefully exorcise the demon, the young master will only become a shell of his previous self with how weak his soul is," the young priest said, as Gunnar shrugged helplessly. Gunnar did not care too much about the young master. He was loyal to Thor and Thor himself, and Thor had hundreds of children and not just one. If Sebastian could not be saved, he did not really care too much about it and was only following up on him because Thor had asked him to. Scratching his head, Gunnar asked, "Is there no way to save him?" The young priest replied in a solemn tone, "There is a way, but it will require the Lord to utilize some divine essence." Gunnar paused when he heard the word divine essence. Divine essence was the most valuable currency of the universe. It was a force like mana that allowed gods to unleash their world-shattering tier 6 and higher attacks, and was a stat only exclusive to the gods. It was valuable because it could not be generated naturally and only generated by mortals in their reverence and worship towards a god. The reason why gods visited primitive planets and brainwashed entire cultures to worship them was because they wanted them to become a farming colony for their divine essence. This. I don't know, only the Lord can decide this, Gunnar said, as he noted everything the priest had to say and departed to report to Thor. Meanwhile the Red Hand group, "Your orders, sir." A mercenary asked Master of Chaos. The latest intelligence report suggested that a lot of the Dragon's Paradise slots had been sold to the Dark Faction members. So much so, that the difficulty of the mission had turned from "death can occur" to "most likely death." Master Ofkos hesitated. Most of the mercenaries going into the Dragon's Paradise from the Red Hand group were either E or D ranked. Mercenaries of this level were not supposed to be assigned most likely death missions, but the times were desperate. The Dark Faction could not be allowed to gain the Dragon Egg. "Damn it, Thor, you money grubber, how can you betray the Light Faction like this?" Master Ofkos wondered as he cursed Thor. To him it seemed like it was Thor who approved of these shady dealings, but little did he know that Thor was clueless of everything that happened under his own nose. That the Thunder Nation itself had been corrupted from head to toe. Prepare for deployment. Open the warehouse, let the participants choose whatever equipment they want. Send 50,000 gold to each of their families with a promise to send more should they never come back. Master Ofkos said, as he made his decision. ///////n. Bonus chapter for hitting the Power Stone's target. good job everyone. // Chapter 119 Saving Sebastian. You're listening at novelfull.audio. System notification. Agility +1 error notification. Agility is at the maximum limit for the tier, system remark. You did it, you maniac, you have successfully maximized tier 1. Yes. Max shouted inside the gravity chamber as he finally completed the agility stat maximization. It was only 3 days till the start of the Dragon's Paradise dungeon, and Max was growing desperate on whether or not he would become tier 2 before the expedition. His constitution stat had maximized recently, however, his agility stat took the longest to be completely maximized. Good job, kid, Grandpa Drax congratulated Max as he acknowledged all the hard work he had put in. Thank you, Grandpa, but this only means we have a big day tomorrow. We need to attempt the tier 2 promotion test and pass with a good rating. Not a good rating, kid, S or higher at the least, I'd say SSS, but I'm not sure you can hack it. Drax said, expressing his true feelings. Oh, believe in me, I can hack it. Max said, confidently. Drax smiled an AI smile. Ever since he had been with Max he had only seen a trembling teenager, but slowly Max was starting to shape into a fine man. I think you should rest up early today, Max, so that you are at your peak for test tomorrow, Drax suggested as Max heeded his suggestion and walked out of the gravity training chamber early for the first time ever. Even the attendant on the door was surprised to see Max leave early, as Max flashed him a V sign on the way out. So you did it, huh? A voice sounded behind Max, but thankfully this time it was not Severus. Yes, Sir Principal, I've maxed out tier 1. Max replied with an honest smile as the principal patted his shoulders with pride. Huh, all these years and finally I have one student under me to complete the program, the first one in 5 decades. The principal said emotionally, he was feeling extremely happy today. A few tears streamed down the principal's cheeks as he said, I'll remember this favor, boy. You can come to me whenever you want guidance, even after your university semester is over. If you persevere on the path of the perfect warrior, I'll forever guide you as your senior. Max bowed deeply. This meant as much to him as it did to the principal. The principal thought that he would never see a student walk on his path in this lifetime, however, his dream finally came true in the student Max. Meanwhile, Sebastian, today was a big day for the young priest. He had especially prayed long and hard for Benyeger's blessing and drank many potions to temporarily increase his strength for the day. Is the body ready? He asked, as the body of a recently dead dwarf was pulled towards the priest for inspection. No injuries, the body is yet to start rotting, it's perfect, the young soulmancer said as he gave the body a green light. An entourage of priests walked toward Sebastian's dungeon cell only to find an extremely skinny-looking and near-dead Sebastian hanging from the chains there. Sebastian's HP was at a pitifully low level, however, whenever he tried to self-inflict damage and die, he would be restrained by the guards and healed by the healer, so that even if he did not wish to live, he was forced to live in his confines. You're here, you evil snake, here to torture me again. Asmodeus said in a weak voice as his body no longer had the strength to shout. Hand me the knife. The young priest demanded, as he was handed a legendary grade artifact. Hold him tight. The priest ordered as 5 soldiers held Sebastian's frail body tightly. The priest began chanting ancient HWMS, as he started to carve Asmodeus's flesh, every word that he spoke seemingly destroying Asmodeus's soul. Ag. Asmodeus screamed and struggled violently with such vigor that even the 5 guards felt being pushed to their limits in holding him still. You bastard, don't do it. Asmodeus screamed. He knew what this procedure was, and it was one of the worst punishments that could be given to a greater demon like him. The priest did not care for Asmodeus's screams as he continued to draw runes all over Asmodeus's forehead, the blood oozing out of his carving being black in color instead of the red in human veins. Let me go, please, I beg you, let me go, Asmodeus started to beg moments later as the demon who did not yield to days of torture finally reached his breaking point. Unfortunately for him however, nobody in the room had any mercy for him as the soulmancer forcefully extracted Sebastian's vegetative soul from his body and alongside it pulled out 95% of Asmodeus's knowledge and talent as he placed them inside the body of the recently dead dwarf. "Resuscitate him," the young priest ordered, as the other priests began to give the dwarf some sort of CPR. The moment Sebastian's soul was pulled out, major changes began happening to his body as his fair skin began to blacken as his white pupils turned into a demonic black. "You bastards, what have you done?" Asmodeus said, his voice now sounding like a hoarse proper demon as he truly felt powerless for the first time in his 2 lifetimes. The dwarf body opened its eyes, however began getting a seizure instantly and lost HP at an extremely fast rate. At this instant the priest took out from his inventory a liquid with such radiance and power that it nearly blinded everyone in the room. "Is that divine essence?" one priest asked as he looked at the drop of liquid lustfully. "No, it's 1/1000000th part of divine essence which is then diluted with 20 parts of water." The priest replied nonchalantly as he poured the 1 drop inside the dwarf's mouth. "Gah!" Sebastian the dwarf gasped loudly as he felt his brain be kick-started with an electric shock, like a car motor being restarted after 20.30 years of staying idle. His HP stopped falling rapidly, but his mana veins felt like they were on fire. //////A/N. The top 7 fans please DM me on Discord, so that I can ship out the signed and printed volume 1 as promised before. Here is the link if you haven't joined already. Link: https://discord.gg/fn96havj8 // Chapter 120 Tier 2 Quest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dewstar Planet. Max went out of the university to Dewstar Planet to attempt his tier promotion. Dewstar Planet was a planet for all Tier 1 players and had a total of 60 tier promotion halls all across the planet. It was arguably the most crowded planet in the entire universe, and a filthy place where Max had unfortunately spent over 2 years in his past life, before giving up entirely. Max waited patiently in a 1-kilometer-long line to get into the tier promotion hall, as he had to wait for 15 hours before he got his chance to take the test. "Alright Smarty, remove your blocking mask and let me record your data," the attendant said as he tried to inspect Max but failed. "I choose the anonymous testing," Max said confidently. Anonymous testing was a concept that was not known to many, but it was extremely vital for someone like Max who wanted to keep his data as private as possible. "That will be 150,000 gold coins, the attendant replied nonchalantly, thinking Max would go back on his choice once he heard the price. Max however just whipped out his 7 Galaxy Platinum card and threw it at the attendant's face. "Platinum card holder." The attendant was impressed as he quickly swiped it and the amount was deducted. "Thank you for choosing our branch to take the anonymous test, young master." The attendant's attitude took a 180 once he realized that Max was not the average Joe. Since the payment was made, Max was led into a private booth where he entered his class and race in privacy. The reason why Max needed to input his class and race was because Tier 2 promotion test was not a physical test of skills like the Tier 1 test but rather a practical challenge devised by the Universal Queen to test one's ability to perform real-world tasks. Had Max chosen to take it publicly, his class and race data would have been recorded by the center before assigning him a quest. With the Blood Shaman class hated by the world, it was not a risk Max was willing to take. "The hell, I can't find my class or race in the database at all," Max said as he cursed looking at the private booth options. Fortunately or unfortunately, Max had a race and a class that were long forgotten by the universe. He was most likely the only person holding them both. After a lot of contemplation, Max finally chose his race as vampire and his class as a normal shaman for the test. Although it was not accurate, with no other options it was the only thing he could do. System notification. Generating a Tier 2 quest for player, unknown, race, vampire, class, shaman. Quest notification. Go to the neutral planet, Hazam, and assassinate the young master of the Su clan, Su Yang, in such a way that the blame of assassination falls on the head of dark faction players. Time limit. 3 days rewards. Tier promotion plus undecided failure penalty. Cannot attempt tier promotion for next 3 weeks. 4 levels. System notification. Your actions are now being monitored closely by an evaluating AI for the next 72 hours. Max read the quest and immediately rushed out of the tier promotion hall towards the teleportation center. As of now he had no idea on how he would assassinate the target or how he would pin the blame on dark faction players, but since he was on a tight time limit he decided to think while he was on the way to his destination. Meanwhile Asmodeus, after Sebastian was saved, Asmodeus was left powerless and in a near-death state. Asmodeus had lost the majority of his vast knowledge and was only a shell of his former self, but even in this condition his hatred for the young soulmancer was boundless. Since the priest did not want death to soil the temple of life, he ordered the prisoner to be escorted out of the building and killed in the woods nearby. Asmodeus's near-lifeless body was hence dragged out of the temple by the soldiers as he was carried into the woods. After a while, Asmodeus was placed with his neck placed on a fallen wooden log, as he heard a sword being unsheathed from behind him. So this is the end of the great demon Asmodeus. Lucifer my lord, forgive me, your servant failed to live up to your expectations. Asmodeus thought as he closed his eyes and resigned to his fate. However, something shocking happened just then as arrows flew from the woods and took out the guards who were meant to execute him. Hearing the thud sounds of bodies hitting the ground, Asmodeus slightly opened his eyes wondering what was going on. Quick, somebody hand me a health potion, a man shouted as Asmodeus soon felt a soothing liquid touch his lips. Instinctively Asmodeus started drinking the fluid which felt like the most divine drink ever with him not having had a sip of water in over a week. Yah! Asmodeus smacked his lips in satisfaction after he drank the full bottle, as he soon felt a little strength returning to his body as he managed to sit up. 4 humans surrounded him, however, it was clear to Asmodeus from their gazes alone that they were not leaders, but just men given a mission. Who sent you? He asked in his demonic voice. The Dark Faction controls nearly 75% of the council in the Thunder Nation. Unfortunately the Soulmancer is not one of our people and we could not bail you out sooner. A human replied. Asmodeus nodded, but then began coughing violently as he vomited a mouthful of blood. Damn it, without Sebastian's soul residing in this body it will soon alter to my demonic characteristics, thought Asmodeus as he understood exactly what was going on with him now. Give me some healing potion bottles, Asmodeus demanded, as he drank nearly 7 bottles before he had his fill. Standing up on his malnourished and wobbly feet, he leaned on a human for support as he looked back towards the direction of the temple and said, the young priest, Sebastian, Thorodinson. I'll be back for your lives soon. /////A/N. This bonus chapter is sponsored by patron Cervantes91, please thank him in the comments for this one /////.